For nearly 2 decades, you've turned to Illegal Curve Hockey as your destination for the latest news, audio, and analysis regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, and all things hockey in Manitoba. Join Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, and Ezra Ginsburg as a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good afternoon, Winnipeg. Good afternoon, Manitoba. For all those joining us live in downtown Winnipeg at City Place, as well as on all of our social media platforms, we say good afternoon, universe. Welcome to a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, a pre-game edition of the broadcast, getting you set for this evening's Toronto Maple Leafs Winnipeg Jets contest in downtown Winnipeg. We're absolutely thrilled to be here in City Place, broadcasting live from the food court. Big audience here. The vibe is excitement, Dave Manouk. The Jets, the Leafs, it's always a big game when these two teams do battle. No difference this afternoon and then later this evening. You can feel the excitement in the air when the Jets and the Leafs play each other. An undefeated season on the line for the Winnipeg Jets thus far. We know the record, 8 wins, 0 losses. The excitement is palpable as the Jets and the Leafs will do battle later on this afternoon.
Yeah, Drew, there's no question about that. Folks are excited here at City Place. And look, the vibe in Winnipeg right now is a lot of excitement, and there should be. They have an 8-0 team, 8-0 team, I should say. And there's a lot of excitement here in this market, and we're seeing it, at Morning Skate. And the guys are keeping this level. And we spoke to Dylan DeMello, Alex Iafallo, talked about the fact that they've had to win in comeback fashion 6 of the 8 games. Right. They've allowed the first goal of the game again. So they know that they've got to be a little bit more crisp maybe to start games, but they like their resiliency. They've liked their battle. They've liked the fact they've been able to kind of come back in these hockey games and, obviously win them all. So a lot of excitement in Winnipeg. And whenever Toronto comes to town, there's obviously a lot of excitement as well. Yeah,
no question about it. And that was sort of my takeaway from Morning Skate. I was I had the pleasure of joining you this morning at the rink for the Morning Skate, and just the even-keeled nature of the Winnipeg Jets players that we spoke to, and head coach Scott Arneal. That was sort of what was most prominent to me, is that, they're treating this thing, the hype when the Leafs come to town is more than, a San Jose Sharks or an Anaheim Ducks. Yep. No disrespect to those teams, but it matters a little bit more when any Canadian or any Original Six team comes to Winnipeg. But the players themselves were very even-keeled. I thought the Morning Skate was just sort of routine is how I would describe it. But at the same time, they know that they don't want to get behind. They don't want to be trailing in the game like they have been. I guess 4 straight games now that they've given up the first goal. And anytime you have to play from behind, it makes things a little bit harder. And especially when you're playing a Maple Leafs team that, frankly, has not really been clicking at all cylinders. You can see that they're still going through a bit of a feeling out process when it comes to new head coach Craig Berube, a guy who, of course, is very familiar to us in Winnipeg with his time in St. Louis as their head coach. So if you're the Jets team, entering in today's game, it's keep your emotions in check. It's going to be a big crowd. It's going to be a big atmosphere, very lively. Keep your emotions in check. And I think this game, almost more than any of the other ones so far where they've been able to come back, you want to take an early lead and have a good start to the contest, I think.
Well, I think also for the very reason that there's going to be a lot of Leafs fans in the house. And folks might not like that, but it does create a good atmosphere. I'm not saying that just having Jets fans in the building is a bad thing, but that rivalry, that element of, you don't want the opposition's fans to be able to kind of win your building. So I think that will create an element. And look, if the Leafs score, there's going to be a lot of cheers. Yeah. And so you want to try and prevent that.
Makes my skin crawl a little bit. I'll be perfectly honest. I know there's Leafs fans listening in who are watching us live and who are down here at City Place listening to this. And kudos to them. Look, I've been the opposing fan in a visiting team's building, especially when I was living in Ottawa, and I go watch the Bombers play either in Ottawa or in Montreal. And there's no better feeling than when you can sort of stick it to the hometown crowd. But at the same time, it does make my skin crawl a little bit, when you see it happen in your own building.
Well, and also more importantly, every team, and we heard from Dylan DeMello today, every team wants to be the team that knocks off the Jets. Sure. They want to be the team that destroys their chance at I'm not going to say a perfect season because that's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
like, you know, the undefeated nature of the season currently. So that's one of the things that, you know, that the Leafs are, like every other team, are going to come in. Now, also, the Leafs have lost 3 straight games.
Right.
They have 2 regulation losses, and I believe it was an overtime loss. So you know that this team wants to get back on track. They want to maintain pace in the Atlantic. So it's one of those things that right now they're, I think, 4-4.
4-4-1.
Yeah.
Everybody in the Atlantic Division. It's actually wild. I was checking this out earlier today in prepping for the show. You know, besides, you know, you got the Panthers at 6-3-1, the Stanley Cup champions, you know, picking up where they left off. Tampa Bay 5-3, and then the next 5 teams in the Atlantic Division are all 4-4-1.
Right.
So parity is at the forefront, especially in that Eastern Conference Atlantic Division.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those, you know, Toronto's. They can talk about the streak all they want. And again, I'm sure they'd be very happy at the end of regulation to be able to discuss the fact that they got back on track and that
Sure.
they were able to eliminate stop the Jets in their tracks. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, they need the 2 points, and the Jets want to keep doing what they're doing, right? Because again, Colorado's back to winning. Nashville started to pick up some wins. So if you're the Jets, even though you've gone 8-0, you really haven't put a significant amount of ground, and you've got to keep adding to it. And you also know, you know, it's funny because one of the questions asked to Scott Arneal today from Kelly Moore was that, you know, this team is even Steven. You said even keel, but I also even Steven. They're 4-0-0 on the road, 4-0-0 at home. They're 18 goals for, 8 goals against, both away and
that is a great statistical anomaly. To your point, that they've managed to be. I mean, it's one thing to have won. You know, obviously when you're 8-0, you've won. You've won everywhere that you've played. But the fact that it's the same goal differential, the same goals for, goals against, both on the road and at home. That's definitely one of those quirky stats that you love to bring up so much.
They are. It is the potpourri I love so much. But at the same time, it's one of those things that this team plays consistently. And that's one of the things Scott Arneal wants them to do. Now, there are things that they need to clean up. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, you know, this is a team that is feeling good about their game overall. And one of the things that we talked about, and it's amazing, and this is the small sample size nature of the initial part of this season so far, Drew, special teams, right? Power play we already knew was top in the league. But the PK, which as of 2 games ago was like 15th, you know, they've had a good stretch through a couple of games. Suddenly now they're the 6th best PK in the NHL.
Well, that's a factor of having a couple of games of success. I mean, going perfect, I think 4 for 4 against Calgary and getting the shorthanded goal. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, and getting a power play goal as well. So everything was going special teams wise on Saturday in Calgary, but it's also a function of the Jets being they have so few penalties. They've been very good at not taking penalties, as we talked about on Saturday morning's edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. When you don't take a lot of penalties, and then the Calgary game's a bit of an anomaly in that you take 4, which is more than they've really taken in any game, I think, so far this year.
Right.
And then you kill them all off.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's really going to impact your penalty kill success numbers.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. So now, luckily for them, the Leafs have a lot of talent, but their special teams haven't been quite to the same level as the Winnipeg Jets, especially their penalty kill. I think their penalty kill right now is ranked 29th in the NHL. So that's less than ideal if you're a Leafs fan. But, you know, again, if you look at their power play, 9th. So their power play is still good because you look at the weapons they have, and it's not a huge surprise that, sorry, I got that was wrong, Drew.
You reversed them.
I reversed them. The power play, which is shocking.
Yes. The power play is the one that's been struggling
because of the talent they have, but the power play has been struggling at 29th. The PK has been pretty good at 9th. So that's one area of concern for the Leafs, but you know, again, that's one of those things that if you're the Jets, you want to keep rolling in that regard.
Did you think that there were going to be any changes to the Jets lineup tonight? So there are no changes based on morning skate. So, you know, barring something strange happening, it's going to be the same lineup that started, that ended the game in Calgary that's going to start tonight.
Right, yeah.
You know, which means Logan Stanley, I guess that would be his 4th straight game on the back end with Colin Miller, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So 4th or 5th at this point in time after he missed the first few games in the season. And, you know, so he's back there. He seems like he's sort of taking on that maybe a bit of a lead in that contest for the left side third pairing defenseman, you know, over Hayden Fleury, who got the early starts to everything. Were you surprised there were no changes to the lineup? You're coming back to Winnipeg. It's just a one-off, and then you have to head out east for the 2 games, Wednesday in Detroit, Friday in Columbus. So it's a bit of just a pop in, pop out for the Winnipeg Jets perspective. You know, did you think that they maybe would take that opportunity to maybe bring a David Gustafsson back in or put a Hayden Fleury back in for the Jets? Or not surprised, status quo, even though, the game on Saturday against the Flames wasn't the prettiest effort. It was a bit of a mishmash of a contest. We talked about all the strange goals on Saturday night. Or are you not surprised if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as you've referenced before?
Yeah, I mean, coaches are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And so I'm not terribly surprised that he stuck with what he stuck with. I mean, look, one of the things that Scott O'Neill said, and this isn't a court of law, so we're not going to hold him to it, but one of the things that he did say was he didn't want guys to be sitting for too long.
Right.
He wanted people to be, participants. Otherwise, they get stale. So, I mean, David Gustafson's probably saying, "Hey, listen, coach, I'd like to get in," and I'm sure Hayden Fleury after his start would also like to. But at the end of the day, I suspect until they lose, then the only changes we're going to see really are a goaltender.
Yeah, and that's, so Connor Hellebuyck gets the start for the Winnipeg Jets tonight, which of course is no surprise at all, given that, Eric Comrie played Saturday against Calgary, and really wasn't going to be an option for the Jets. I mean, everything's been going so well with this team so far that there's no real reason to expect anything different. It's just a matter of matching that early game energy. There's going to be that extra buzz in the crowd, and that's usually should propel the home team. And if they can get that early goal, if they can capitalize on an early opportunity, then that's going to only maybe seed more doubts into the minds of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because I look at the Leafs, and to me, they're a team that's, we know that, they're uber talented, and they're probably more talented than their record is, than their record displays so far. But to me, they're a team that's still sort of feeling out their coach and understanding the new approach that their coach is bringing to the table. Whereas the Jets had the familiarity with Scott Arniel from last year and from his time as sort of the interim head coach when Rick Bowness had the couple of different health challenges over the last couple of years, that there wasn't that learning curve that the Leafs, I think, are going through right now. So you want to continue to seed that doubt. You want them, having to clutch onto moral victories rather than victories in the win column. And I think that's what happened after their last game against Boston, if I recall correctly. Who'd they play last? I think it was Boston. I could be wrong, but they were saying, we played well, we didn't get the 2 points. The moral victory. Whereas the Jets want to make sure they don't take that next step forward and instead continue to make them sort of question the new approach.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question. And you do see the benefit, you have to say, of Scott Arniel being retained within this Jets framework and becoming elevated, of course, as the head coach, Drew, because I mean, he's out to a historic start, right? We didn't mention it on the broadcast. I didn't know it until after the game, but his 8-0-0 start is the first time a coach has ever begun his tenure with a new team at that record and hitting 8-0-0. So it's been an impressive start for him, and that's significant. And you're right. There's always going to be those growing pains. It's always going to be those sort of getting to know you tendencies. And for the Leafs, that's one of those things. And you also got to understand for the Leafs, I suspect. And again, this isn't Leafs lunch, but at the same time,
no, it's the Illegal Curve pregame show live at City Place, live on location at City Place prior to this evening's Jets Leafs game.
Exactly, and I think, but what I was going to say is that it's almost like it has to be the regular season has to be so ho-hum for these guys. Okay, we're going to finish here. We're going to play. We know which team we're going to play most likely. It's almost all in. The regular season's got to be a little bit of monotony for these Leafs at this point. But
similar to the Jets, though, I would argue. The Jets are also a team that is looking to prove themselves and looking to get the productivity come playoff time, because they have been that good regular season team, certainly at least last year, but it hasn't translated into postseason success. So, of course, to be able to get to the postseason, you need to win the games in the regular season. But, that's why, the Jets are continuing to sort of people are impressed by what they've done, but at the same time, it's when are you going to do it come April? When are you going to do it come May? That really matters the most. And the Jets have that mindset, of course, and they know that that's the knock against them.
Right.
But at the same time, they need to find a way to sort of how to translate that moving forward.
There's no question about it. And I want to, talk about that thought, Drew, but at the same time, I think there's one other thing we need to mention throughout the course of this broadcast.
Yes.
And that's a reminder that this game is on Prime.
Right.
And you can share with folks how they can watch it, because I know a lot of people are going to be like wanting to turn on TSN, wanting to turn on Sportsnet, CBC. You're going to be hoping to watch it on television. But just it's a reminder, you have to have Prime because today is the first Prime game of the season for the Winnipeg Jets.
Exactly right. So the way that works, and it's good that you brought it up because I was sitting with Mike McIntyre at pregame skate, and he said that he's already got, like, I think he said half a dozen emails from people wanting to know how to watch the game, especially if you're of a certain demographic who might not be as familiar with the
Drew's age group,
my age group. Exactly right. You might not be as familiar with the streaming services and how to access the streaming services. So again, let's run through this one real quick. Today's game, tonight's Jets-Leafs game, is only available through Amazon Prime. Now, depending on your age of your television, you might have an app right on your TV that is Amazon Prime. You have to sign up for it if you don't already subscribe to Amazon Prime to watch tonight's game. So it's not available on your TSN3. It's not available on Sportsnet. It's not available on the Jets website. It's only available tonight through Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
That said, I did reach out to our friends at Boston Pizza earlier today to say, hey, are you going to be, even though it's on Prime, are you guys going to have the game? And they have assured me that they're going to broadcast the game as well. So if you don't have an Amazon Prime subscription, if you don't know how to figure it out, your local Boston Pizza, I'm sure the Shark Club, both of those great venues here at City Place will have the games available. So it might be sort of an old school way where you have to go out to a local establishment, support local and watch the game there if you can't get it on your home TV. But it's not going to be available on TSN, CBC, Sportsnet, the Jets website. It's only available Amazon Prime or at a local establishment where you might be able to have a few things to eat or drink and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's just important that people know that in advance because you don't want people scrambling at, and reminder the game starts at 6:30.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to be one of those things that, 6:30, you don't want people trying to figure out how to get it all working. So this is just a friendly reminder. We'll hit you with another one before this show ends. And I'll make sure to throw some notes in the papers on illegalcurve.com. By the way, I not to pat myself on the back, but make sure you check out the paper.
Not to pat yourself on the back, but you're going to pat yourself on the back.
I am, because the notes were comprehensive today,
I bet,
covering everything to do with the Jets, the Moose, and Jets prospects. So if you get a chance to give them a perusal, make sure you do if you want to get caught up on everything doing within the True North family of teams, because I had it pretty extensively covered, including Colby Barlow getting his first multi-goal game of the 24-25 season.
So you look at the matchups for today's game, and the Jets back on home ice. That means they get last change. The Leafs are running, Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. We know the names that the Leafs have. Yeah. Pat Chiaretti, John Tavares, William Nylander. There's a lot of talent up front. Anthony Stolar is going to get the start in net for the Leafs. He's been terrific so far this year. I think his save percentage is something like 927. Sorry, they overshot it a little bit. But the Leafs are getting solid goaltending from him, a 2.19 goals against average. So he's been the best of the Leafs goalies so far. From your perspective, you're Scott Arniel. Where are you deploying? I know.
What's high praise? Yeah. I don't know how you just became Scott Arniel, but okay.
I was going to say, pretend you're Scott Arniel. Where are you deploying? I mean, I assume you want Adam Lowry out there against the most dangerous Leafs line.
Yep.
Who are you deploying him against? Are you deploying him against the Matthews line? Are you deploying him against the Tavares and Niederreiter line? How are you sort of think the Jets are going to handle that? Or are you thinking that really first line for the Leafs or second line? So Matthews line or Tavares line, it doesn't really matter. They're going to see a steady dose of Lowry and Scheifele regardless.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way you're going to do it. And again, obviously, depending on what side the faceoff is, strong sides, you'll tend to maybe throw it there. And that's the benefit of being the home team. That's the benefit of being able to make that decision, before the other team. So you can say, okay, well, look, this is his strong side on the faceoff. We're going to go with Lowry versus Scheifele or whatever it's going to be. So I think it's a bit of a chess match from a coaching perspective. But one of the things that we've seen from this Jets club is the evenness, right? The fact that they can feel confident playing all four lines really against anybody. And the fourth line, for the most part, has done some good work hemming the opposition. And we've talked about the fourth line spending time in the offensive zone. Mm-hmm. So that's one of those things that I think that gives you a lot of confidence. The Jets, of course, scratching Nick Robertson. So that's
the Leafs.
What did I say?
You said the Jets.
Okay, fine. The Leafs scratching Nick Robertson. Well, I mean, some Jets fans wanted to trade for Robertson, so maybe that would have been.
Well, same with Timothy Liljegren, who's also going to be a healthy scratch for the Leafs on the back end. He's a guy that's sort of fallen out of favor in Toronto that a lot of Jets fans looked upon as, hey, there's something there, especially the analytics community. The analytics community is a strong proponent of him, thinking that there's some value there that could be acquired for, not a really significant price, seemingly as he's not in the regular rotation for the Leafs.
It's always hard to want a king's ransom if you're not playing the guy. If he has no value to your organization, it's difficult to kind of give him to try and get a haul for him. But look, at the end of the day, the Jets, I don't know that they're going to fixate on line matching too much, because I think, like I said, he has a lot of confidence in this group and in their ability to be able to adapt and to be able to play up against anyone. So look, the one of the lines that we know we've talked about, the Scheifele line has to be better.
Yeah,
5-on-5.
At 5-on-5s,
there's no question about it. So here's an opportunity for them to try and make some hay and do something, because look, the Lowry line's been fantastic. We know first 5-on-5 goal given up, which was mentioned on our show.
Yes, it was.
Someone said on Twitter, has anybody mentioned? And I saw that you commented we have mentioned it. So we did mention it in that last game. But look, they hadn't given up a 5-on-5 goal for 8 games. That's pretty significant. So again, that to me is you have that reliability with the Lowry line. You have the reliability for the most part of the Kupari line. I know there's been some hiccups here and there, and the Nemestikov line's got a lot stronger. So really now it's at 5-on-5. You want to see that Scheifele line. And one thing about Mark Scheifele, he spoke on NHL.com. He talked about how he's got more to give, which we would agree. But more importantly, he gets up as a Toronto kid.
Yeah.
He always gets up for the games against the Leafs. He knows the attention it gets in, both markets, but specifically his home market.
Yeah.
So I think that from his perspective, and again, this is a guy who wants to be part of the Four Nations. So he know that there's a little more juice, I say, for Scheifele to perform in today's game.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said there. It's no question about it. He's a guy who, when the spotlight is the brightest, he wants to be most apparent. He wants people to notice him and step up. And, he's a guy that has obviously had his ups and downs over the course of his career. I would say more has plateaued over the last number of years. I don't say that in a negative sense of the word, just more that, you sort of know what you're going to get from him. That the defensive play, while better, is not exceptional by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just, little things that he's done to sort of even out the game, maybe make his game a little bit more even keel. But this is a game where you're going to want to come out and you're going to want to make, it's not a statement game. You were talking about that in the morning scrums. It's not a statement game for the Leafs, for the Jets, because they're 8-0.
Right.
It's a statement game for any team that's playing against the Jets, because they want to be the team that knocks the Jets off. They want to be the team that prevents the Jets from continuing their unbeaten streak to start the season. Now, it's obviously going to come to an end at some point in time. It's probably going to come to an end sooner rather than later. But the Jets also know that historically what they have been doing, and for whatever reason, the NHL record book and the NHL will acknowledge that this is just one big regular season winning streak, even though it's over the course of 2 different years. The Jets know that. The Jets don't control the record book, but they certainly want to keep that good things going. They want to keep their name in the record book. They want to continue to climb the ranks of longest regular season winning streaks of all time. Just like Scott Arniel wants to continue to go and say, no, I'm going to be the coach that was the first coach to ever win 9 in a row, 10 in a row, 11 in a row. Things roll downhill, both good and bad. And while it's going good right now, you want that to continue.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, matching records is great. And none of these guys are focused on that. At the end of the day, every one of these guys knows regular season doesn't matter in this market.
Right.
I mean, what they're doing right now is significant, and I'm not going to minimize it because
it's fun and everyone's enjoying it. But it matters most come playoff.
Right. And what you're doing now is you're building habits, and you're building good habits. Because look, as you said, Drew, it's inevitably going to come to an end, and whether it's in game 9 or game 14 or whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And the fact of the matter is, you want to know that you've built those good habits, that it doesn't become, more importantly, a 1, 2, 3 game losing streak. That's the key for this team, and that again, that you're able to. That word gets thrown out a lot, like buzzwords get thrown out a lot, cliches get thrown out a lot, hockey. But one of the things I think it's important to focus on is, consistency. And that's kind of, like I said, that's what Kelly Moore's point was when he was talking to Scott Arniel today. And like you said, I hadn't thought about the fact that they were that even Steven of a team, but that's what they want to be able to preach. And the reason why is because in 3 weeks or 3 months, this team is playing the same brand of hockey, regardless of who's in the lineup. And again, like I said, you're going to have off nights, you're going to have off games, but you don't want that to be something that bleeds into a longer period of time. And I think from what we've seen early, this team is going to maintain that level of consistency.
Yeah, I would think so. The Leafs are a bit of a stronger possession team than the Winnipeg Jets have been so far this year, but within percentage points at this point. So it's not a significant. They're not a huge possession team, an overwhelming possession team like the the Carolina Hurricanes are purported to be, or the Edmonton Oilers have been as of late. So things of that nature. Something to keep an eye on. But the Jets, again, it's important that I think they get off to that strong start. You don't want to fall behind against this Toronto Maple Leafs team, would be what I would say, because the Leafs are likely going to be able to score goals.
Yes.
That's generally where a strong suit of theirs has been. So far this year, of course, the Jets are scoring more than the Leafs, and the Jets are giving up fewer than the Leafs. So the Jets have been productive offensively, stingy defensively. We know the regular season MO for this Winnipeg Jets team and what it has been so far, because it's been very similar for the last couple of years. The Leafs, coming off a couple really poor losses, poor performances, where I would go as far as to say they took their opponent for granted. That loss against the Columbus Blue Jackets last week, pretty inexcusable. That loss against the St. Louis Blues, where you got your own head coach going back to play the team that dismissed him as head coach after he had such success there. A pretty inexcusable loss. The Leafs are, I would describe them as potentially vulnerable because of how they've been playing as of late and not really clicking at all cylinders. So you want to get those doubts activated. You want to, make it like you're doing a sourdough starter. Get the yeast bubbling so that they're thinking to ourselves, this isn't going to work out again. This isn't going to work for us again. We're having troubles here again. Make it so that they get those those doubts percolating as this game goes on later on tonight.
I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what you just talked about. The fact that you start talking about kneading bread and
sourdough. You don't have a sourdough starter?
Drew, if I want sourdough, I go to Selkirk Avenue to Guns Bakery and I buy a sourdough. That's the extent of my bread making capabilities. I like to eat bread, clearly, but I'm not a bread maker or a breadwinner. But anyways, yes, I mean, this is the stuff that we've talked about. This is the idea of baking this stuff into a cake. Oh, now I'm there going there.
Yeah, now you're going to the food analogies as well. Yeah,
but no, I mean, look.
And we also had muffins here earlier. Things are going well all around.
I just think that what you have to see from this Jets club is, and the one player we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
Because he didn't play the last game was Connor Hellebuck.
Right.
And again, Connor Hellebuck is also going to feel not pressure, because again, I don't think he succumbs to that, but just that idea that he is going to be amped up. We didn't talk to him after the game. He seemed, you were in the room. I was in the room. Yeah. He seemed fine. He was making jokes, but I'm just saying that, that he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and he knows that this game has a lot of scrutiny and it gets a lot of eyeballs. And I think, like I said, I don't think that level of pressure is a bad thing, right? What do they say? Pressure creates diamonds, Drew. So, although we still have to explain that to Ezzy. He still hasn't figured that.
We haven't figured out the science of that just yet. We're gonna pull out the sock puppets next time and hopefully explain it to him that way. But you're absolutely right. The lights are going to be the brightest. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. It's already a fun atmosphere here at City Place. We're in the food court downtown Winnipeg. We're going to be here throughout the course of the season, as you can see here on the big poster, next in action here at City Place. Basically, once a month, we're going to be doing a pregame show here. The next time is Tuesday, November the 19th. So if you're in the downtown neighborhood, if you're in the downtown region and you're looking for something to do at noon hour, we're going to be here live on location, broadcasting from City Place. All sorts of great options for you after. I'm already considering, when we wrap here in about 30 minutes time, where we're going to go for lunch. I mean, the options galore, and I got a little bit of a rumble in my belly, so I'm going to have to really think hard about that over the course of the next 30 minutes and figure out where lunch is in fact going to come from as we discuss the Jets and the Leafs. That game 6:30 later on this evening on Amazon Prime. We'll take our only commercial break of this afternoon's program. When we come back, much more about the Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk with you. Producer Tim doing the great job behind the board as he always does. Don't go anywhere. It's the Illegal Curve pregame show live on location at City Place in downtown Winnipeg. We're in the food court. for the Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
Bottom of the hour, welcome back. We are live on location, the Illegal Curve pregame show. We're at City Place in the food court here, getting you set for the Winnipeg Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. A reminder, this game available only on Amazon Prime tonight. So if you're looking for it on TSN or Sportsnet or CBC or the Jets website or the Illegal Curve website or the City Place website, it's not going to be there. Only Amazon Prime. Or do what you should do and maybe grab some friends, head out to your local Boston Pizza, like the Boston Pizza that's here at City Place, or maybe you're going to head over to the Shark Club here, the gaming center here at City Place. They're going to have the game as well. So lots of different options for you to be able to watch tonight's game. Going to take a little bit more effort on your part, but I'm confident that you can do it. You can find a way. You can call somebody up. They're gonna help you find the game tonight.
I suspect my parents are going to be phoning me about 5 minutes before the game starts to say, how am I supposed to watch this game? Which I will cut off by phoning them in advance.
There you go.
After the show is done.
Exactly.
To explain to them.
Call your loved ones. Do that now. Sorry, let me rephrase. Don't do that now. Do that in 30 minutes time.
Yes.
At 1 o'clock after we wrap the pregame show here. Call your loved ones that you know are going to be calling you for help to watch the game. Be preemptive. Do it ahead of time. They're going to love you extra for thinking about them. That's my free advice for you ahead of tonight's Jets-Leafs game on this Monday night. Broadcasting live right now. We are from City Place in downtown Winnipeg. The special teams for the Jets, Dave. That was a big sort of topic of conversation among the
among the media this morning, just how effective those special teams have been between the Jets. So for the Jets so far, and then you look back at Calgary's game, the Calgary game on Saturday. Yeah. So not only do you score the power play goal that ends up being the game winner, the Cole Perfetti snipe, not only do you kill off 4 Calgary Flame power play opportunities, but you score a shorthanded goal on top of things. You know, so
using Kyle Connor.
Yes, using Kyle Connor.
Which again, we talked about with John Goins, the coach John Goins, who joined us on Saturday's show, which, by the record, I put up as a standalone post, both on illegalcurve.com and on our YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribing. Really good stuff. I broke it all down by topics that we asked, but John's really insightful, a lot of information. But, you know, it was funny because one of the questions I asked him was using skilled guys in that capacity. And he talked about the benefit, and sure enough, we saw it. So anyways.
Exactly. I mean, to me right now, the Jets special teams they're such a dramatic factor for this team. And we talked about it last year where, you know, the struggles of the special teams and how that impacted success, even success in the season where they were wonderfully successful.
Yes.
Absolutely. And now this year they're getting similar 5-on-5 play, I would say, but that special teams is becoming such a driver for this team. It's being such an asset for this team that you certainly know that, you know, when you're an opponent playing against this Jets team right now, it's sort of a pick your poison situation in terms of how they're going to beat you. Are they going to beat you at 5-on-5? Well, they're going to play you pretty hard and pretty even at 5-on-5, you know, for the most part. Then they're going to beat you on the special teams. Well, yeah, the power play is doing exceptional work, and it's both units of the special teams. I mean, you know, we talked about it this morning. You know, Kelly Moore of CJOB was mentioning it, that basically both the first power play unit and the second power play unit for the Winnipeg Jets have capitalized to the same level of success. They have the same number of goals, the same number of opportunities converted, almost the same number of points have been gained by players on both the first unit and second unit.
Not almost. It's actually, in fact, they are the same. In fact, if you really want to quibble with Kelly, you could say that the second power play unit would have one more because the Niederreiter goal wasn't a power play goal that Perfetti set up, but realistically, that would have been the one that put them slightly above. But you know, look, at the end of the day, the point you're making, Drew, is that the Jets have no fear using either unit, and that's the way you want to be. You don't want to have to, you know, first of all, you don't want. It's going to be so much better for the game itself because you're not burning these guys out. And I understand that, you know, playing a minute and a half with the man advantage isn't necessarily burning them out. Excuse me, but the key is you want these guys to play a minute, right, and get off if they can. And now you don't have to worry about the second unit not being able to be capable. They are capable. They're getting it done just as effectively as the first unit. So therefore, you have no concerns. The PK is the same, right? Look at the way the PK is working, right? And it's effective, and it's so much more. You know, sorry, going back to the power play, but you know, you asked John about recovery, and we're seeing just. Again, you talked the way you opened it up. You said about controlled aggression, I believe is how you phrased it.
That's exactly how I referenced it. Yes, exactly. Controlled aggression is how I described the Jets special teams so far this year.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying though. We're seeing a better, like you said, it's a
mindset. The mindset is, sorry for stepping over you here, but
I gotta set you up a little bit.
The mindset to me from the Jets perspective so far, but in both elements of the special teams has been aggression. And we sort of heard that in the preseason when you know, when the Jets hired their assistant coach, and they said it's not a penalty kill, it's a power kill. You know, just that use of terminology like that sort of the change in tone for how both units sort of approach their job. And we don't need, you know, we know that last year it was passive and it was standing around on the power play stationary, and then the penalty kill was passive beyond words. This year it's been almost the complete opposite. It's been you know, the controlled aggression. The power play is thinking decisively. It's movement. It's movement both of the players and the puck. Nobody's just standing still and killing the flow of the puck. And then on the penalty kill, any opportunity is an opportunity for taking the puck out and transitioning it up the ice. And maybe when there's a 2-on-1 opportunity that comes out of nowhere, as we saw with Connor and Lowry on Saturday, and the resulting in the goal by Kyle Connor, they're taking that opportunity. It's just, you can see how the mindset of the players is changing as it pertains to both the power play and the penalty kill and the thought process thereof.
Yeah, and like I said, this is one of those areas that you didn't have last year, right? We talked about it. Their numbers were abysmal for the majority of the season. They obviously got a little bit better on the power play, especially when Sean Monahan was added to the fold. But ultimately that was not a help. It was a hindrance, not a help. And so, one of the things that Dean Chenoweth talked about was the idea of we don't want to just kill a penalty.
Right.
We want to draw something from killing that penalty. We want to draw energy from it. And I think you're seeing that. And, look, what kind of just from a solid kill, what you can do. But when you add on top of that a shorthanded goal,
yes,
it's even more significant. Clearly.
So momentum isn't necessarily something that lasts for a full 60 minutes of a hockey game, but it seems to last in spurts. So when you have that successful penalty kill, like you just referenced, where, not only are you getting your player out of the box, you're not giving up a goal, but you're maybe even a little bit demoralizing your opponent. You're like, oh God, the opponent's like, after 2 minutes, we did nothing. We accomplished nothing. We were on our heels despite having an extra man on the ice. That can go a long way in just creating a good vibe and a good energy for your team. It's no guarantee that it's going to last for, minutes and a substantive portion of the game.
It's not going to be the whole game.
Right. Ebbs and flows of the game come and go. And so you can only sort of control what you can control.
Isn't that the whole idea of an ebb and flow?
Yeah, that is sort of the whole idea of an ebb and flow. Yes, thank you very much. But so when you can prevent a team from from having an ebb where it comes either by a power play success, and instead you get that vibe, you get that success, and you get that good feeling, it often will then translate onto the other end of the ice. Usually, especially when teams are by and large so even, and most of the teams in the NHL this year, the parity is obvious, especially in the regular season. We all know that. So that, when you have to be able to garner the advantages where you can get them from. And one of the spots you can get them from in the course of a 60-minute game is from a successful penalty kill or a successful power play. I mean, that is something that goes a long way. We saw it last year where the Jets would have a power play. They would play well at 5-on-5. They would earn a power play. Things are going great. You have the good feeling. The power play would come out and it would do nothing. Stagnant. It would just be, well, that's 2 minutes of our lives and 2 minutes of the game gone forever. Right. And what did we accomplish in this power play? We didn't accomplish anything but seeding doubts into our own mind about how we are to succeed. Seed those doubts in the opponent by killing their power play opportunity. Seed those doubts in your opponent by having the successful power play and scoring a goal. It's all about making people question themselves, especially teams that aren't necessarily playing with the utmost of confidence, who are still maybe questioning the approach and how they have to go about it to be successful. A team like right now at this stage of the season, I would include the Toronto Maple Leafs in, as they're still, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, still trying to feel out how Craig Berube wants them to look on a night in, night out basis.
Look, I think you're absolutely right with what your assessment there, Drew. And of course, it doesn't make a very good show. Maybe I should just disagree with you just to be disagreeable. But yeah,
arguments for the sake of arguments.
Yeah, we just want to make it a little more contentious around here. Too much love on a legal curve makes us cranky after the fact. But look, I think that there's a very good point that you're making in that Winnipeg has used the special teams this year in a way they haven't used them in years, because both are working. There's no frustration with one, but one's working. So you point out one, well, our power play is really good, but our PK sucks.
Right.
And, in years past, they've had pretty solid PKs, but their power plays have been,
Right. It's been a long time. I'd have to go back to look, but it's been a really long number of years since both the power play and the penalty kill were assets for this team.
That's right. And so that is what I'm getting at, is that this is now something, an area of pride that this team can focus on. And when you're 5-on-5, which has been okay, hasn't been it's not like you're lights out, you're dominating teams in all aspects of the game. But when you have the opportunity to have both those teams, both those special teams, dominating for you, well, that gives you a little bit of, and of course, we have to always mention Connor Hellebuck in that, the great equalizer for when your 5-on-5 game isn't running optimally. But I think if you have those two things, then suddenly your team looks very different, because you now have the benefit of the special teams, and that's giving you a little bit of breathing room, which is not something we saw last year with the Jets.
That's right. It goes a long way to have that success, especially, it's a huge factor for the Jets. It's been a huge factor in determining their success so far, through the early parts of this season, is being able to get those goals and not not give up those goals at untimely opportunities. And that's the same thing that's got to continue, as you play game number 9 of the season, go for the 9th straight win later on tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs here in downtown Winnipeg. Speaking of downtown Winnipeg, we're live on location broadcasting this special edition of the Illegal Curve pregame show. We are live at City Place in the food court. Great atmosphere here as everyone's enjoying their lunch and whatever they're grabbing. I'm still pondering my options for about 20 minutes from now. I'm still considering it. Don't worry. I'm still pretty hungry. That's not a surprise for anybody. But it's great atmosphere. We're thrilled to be back here for another season of broadcast with our friends at City Place here, getting ready for the Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Connor Hellebuyck, of course, is a huge factor. He's been great so far this year, as you would expect. He hasn't had anything that you would really describe as a bit of a down game so far. Maybe for him, he's been a goal here and a goal there that he hasn't really loved, but that's human nature. That's inevitable. But by and large, he continues to be that driving force for the Winnipeg Jets. The cleaning up mistakes, not giving up that back-breaking goal when, he's given up 1, maybe they've given up 2. He hasn't given up that 3rd, and he certainly hasn't given up that 4th, because the Jets as a team haven't given up 4 goals yet in a game, which speaks to the commitment to team defense and the success that this team has been having in keeping your opponents off the scoreboard. If you don't give up 4 goals in a game, odds are you're going to win more than you're going to lose over the course of an 82-game season.
True, Drew. And if you're going with continuation, that would be 17 straight games, I believe, without giving up more than 3 goals. So,
right. Which is remember that streak last year, sort of that middle part of the season. I think it ended in that game in Boston where the Jets were really right on
35, I think.
Whatever the number was, it was a ridiculous number. It was an outlandish number that spoke to just how good the team defense was for the Jets. Yep. And you can see that there's no interest in the players in taking a step back from that. And that was always certainly going to be something I was going to keep an eye on, early on in this year. Would Scott Arniel have the same amount of buy-in, that same level of commitment on the defensive side of things that they had last year under Rick Bowness? And there's no question about it that they certainly do continue to have that level of success.
Well, that's what Scott Arniel's always going to preach. Scott Arniel's always going to preach defense. That's what he wants. Right. He wants his team to play smart defensive hockey, committed to that, 5-man unit, and knowing that the success of his team and the offense of his team is going to come from their ability to play good defense. And we've seen it. And again, obviously we've seen hiccups, but Drew, you made the point about Kyle Connor's back check in the offensive zone where he stole the puck, sets up Mark Scheifele, who gets it over to Gabe Vilardi, who scores his first goal of the season.
That was in the Seattle game.
Yeah. But the point is that how does that happen? That happens because he starts to puck pursue, right? As opposed to just kind of being apathetic and like, okay, I'll be lazy in terms of getting back. Now, again, are there imperfections in his game in that regard? There certainly are. But at the same time, you wanted to see those types of that should be a incentive for him, right? Because there's a perfect example of when defense led to offense. And I just think that this is what you're seeing from this team more often than not, that commitment to defense.
Well, I know they're different animals entirely, playing defense at 5-on-5 versus playing on the penalty kill. But I do think that, and he's only playing 25 seconds a game on the penalty kill so far this season. Kyle Connor is who I'm speaking about. But I do think that just giving him that opportunity, even if it's that one penalty kill shift a game, really that's what 25 seconds is. It's one penalty killing shift a game. So he's not the first unit over the boards. He's not the second unit over the boards, but just telling him, look, you're an option on the penalty kill. I think that does something to a player's mindset when it comes to the defensive side of the game in all situations. Saying, hey, we trust you when we are a man short to play solid defense and play solid within our system. And as a result, I think that translates into him thinking defense a little bit more at 5-on-5 than he really has at all over the last number of years. To me, that's just another good deployment of your roster and of your players by Scott Arniel. Even it's just a small little bone for him to have, but I think it has made an impact, and I think it will continue to sort of keep that defensive mindset that doesn't come naturally to a guy like Kyle Connor.
No, I mean, he's a pure goal scorer. We've seen it since his times at since his Phantom days, really, in the USHL, but of course mostly in Michigan, then with the Moose, and then of course with the Jets. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this is one of those, you need him to score. He's a goal scorer at the end of the day. But, you know, when you're going up against...
And he's scoring goals. And there's no question about that.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, this is, if you want to be referred to, like Mark Shively doesn't want to just be a good center.
Sure.
You want to be known as a upper echelon center. You don't want to be seen as a middle of the pack. You know, your team serviceable, but you can't necessarily. He's not seen as a center who can win a team can win a Stanley Cup.
Well, and I'm sure that on Wednesday with the Jets heading to Detroit, and of course, you know, not far from Shifley's home, in Southern Ontario, you're going to hear some of that Shifley Steve Yzerman conversation. A little bit, where he's trying to sort of adjust his game to that effect.
Well,
not he hasn't had it to the success of Steve Yzerman, but that was always sort of the just a theme to discuss as you want to see a more well-rounded game from Mark Shifley.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, I don't want to say that you heard it first here on this program, but for years I've been saying that, we were expecting to see that sort of turn from Mark Shifley from the offensively minded forward to a player who's more willing to play that 200-foot game. Now, what are things that lend that, what enhance that likelihood? One, the certainty of the contract. Okay, never has to think about a contract really ever again
for the next 6 years, 7 years, whatever.
But my point is, for right now, he's not thinking about his contract.
Right.
What else does he have to think about? He wants to be on the Four Nations Cup.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be in the Olympics. I mean, it's just who he is. There's no question about it. So the fact is, but you can't play that way. And also legacy building. And this applies to this whole veteran group, I would suggest.
Mm-hmm.
But they all want to create a legacy. And you create legacy through championships. And they know that. We know that. Everybody knows that who's watching the show and who listens to this show. So the fact of the matter is that Mark Shifley has changed his game because he knows he has to change his game. He knows for Winnipeg to win, his game had to change. And again, do I think it's perfect yet? No, I don't. But I know that he knows that that's what he needs to do to help get, again, similar to Steve Yzerman, right? Scoring
all
100
points in the world, but no success in terms of the lifting the cup.
And again, similar to Yzerman. I mean, Yzerman had a fantastic cast of characters around him, right? So it's not exactly like he was playing with scrubs and he just did it himself. But my point is that for a player like Yzerman to be able to change his game, it's why the Shifley comparable made sense. Mm-hmm. Forgetting about the fact that Steve Yzerman was one of his favorite players, but like just that idea that this is a guy who's offensively minded, who changed his game to be more responsible. And similarly, I expect Mark Shifley to do that this year, next year, all under the guise of trying to win a championship for this Jets team.
Yeah, and that's how it has to be. Yeah, and it took the players a long time to understand how you have to be to win, a championship in this league. Now they're a long ways away from winning that championship. So let's not, get the cart before the horse. An 8-0 start is fantastic, and everyone is loving the vibes here in the city of Winnipeg and here in the City Place in the food court here. Everyone's loving the vibes of the Jets and their recent success. But, it's just regular season success so far. So we all know, they know, everyone in the Jets organization knows that the true test it comes at the end of the year, but you can't get there before putting in the foundational pieces now.
That's right.
And that's what the team is doing. So, everyone's saying, yes, but what? When does it matter most? How are they going to be? And that's a valid concern, and that's valid criticism, and that's totally fair commentary when it comes to this Winnipeg Jets team so far. But that flipping of the switch, it just doesn't happen. Especially for a team that needed to be built up from ground floor about the right habits and the right approach to winning on a night in, night out basis.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to get too deep into the baking analogies or building analogies, but you don't put a roof on a house that doesn't have a foundation, right? And that is what Scott Arniel is trying to do. He's trying to take the foundation that was first inputted by Rick Bowness for the last 2 years, and building on that. Changing some things, obviously, that weren't working, like the special teams.
Sure.
Brings in 2 new coaches, assistant coaches. They're working on that element. Again, one of the things he talked about, it's something that anybody who, kind of runs something, letting go of authority. And he's had to do that to a certain degree, let those guys have some more autonomy to make decisions on their groups.
But that's why you hire them. You hire them to do that because you trust them to be able to sort of to shepherd the special teams to places that they haven't been able to go before.
Right. And so now, like I said, so this team is trying to create a good defensive or build on a good defensive structure, good on special team, or building on now what were okay special teams into good special teams. And now you're going to try and of course you already have the world-class goaltender.
Yeah.
So then eventually you'll get there. And I know, look, we live in an instant gratification society. Everybody wants things instantly. We want, Brad Lambert to be the second line center. We want prospect Braden Yager to already be in the NHL. That doesn't happen. It takes years. It takes a long time. Even if we want them to happen tomorrow, they don't always happen tomorrow. So this season is going to be all about building, and it's not going to be considered a successful season until they have that success in the playoffs. But again, like you said, Drew, like we've been saying throughout the course of this podcast, like we've been saying for a long time, this doesn't happen unless you actually build things up. And that's what this whole regular season is going to be about. So that's, it's a process. Nobody likes the getting there. Everybody likes, being on vacation. You don't want to have to think about being on the plane for 6 hours, but this is being on the plane for 6 hours. Eventually you'll get that payoff.
And it should be a fun one later on tonight in downtown Winnipeg, the Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Always entertaining when those two teams get together. Always entertaining when we are live here at City Place, broadcasting from the food court, the first of at least 6 of our live on location broadcasts over the course of this year. And hopefully we'll, come playoff time, we'll figure that out. But I think that's our mindset as well. We're focused on the playoffs as well as the Jets being focused on the playoffs, but it starts with game number 9 later on tonight. A game, again, one more time, I'm going to remind everybody before we wrap here. Tonight's game.
Alan's already asking. He's looking for a place to watch the game. So this is why this is going to be a good time for you to say this, Drew.
That's right. So if you're looking for a place to watch the game tonight, maybe you don't have Amazon Prime, and as a result, you can't watch the game at home, head on down to your local Boston Pizza, such as the one here in City Place. They're going to have the games. The Shark Club here at City Place, it's going to have the games on as well. So wherever you need to go, of course, City Place is your home away from home in downtown Winnipeg.
Game if you want.
You can. I think there's still some tickets available for the game.
There might be still some tickets.
A handful of seats if you want to go to the game as well for tonight. But wherever you need to catch the game tonight, that is a good strategy if you don't have Amazon Prime at home, because again, it's not on TSN, it's not on CBC, it's not on Sportsnet, it's not on Illegal Curve, it's not on the Jets website, it's on Amazon Prime. I know I'm shilling hard for Amazon Prime, but
you're just trying to give people.
It's true. I'm trying to preempt the emails and the text messages and the tweets and the Instagram DMs and everything else where people say, hey, how do I watch the game? Yeah. It's available on exclusively Amazon Prime or at your local Boston Pizza and or Shark Club here in downtown Winnipeg at City Place.
Four Jets games are on Prime, right?
There's this one, yeah. I think there's 4. What does that say? Manuk Moose Minutes. That's what our buddy Hartsey is here. He's saying he wants the Manuk Moose Minute. I think that'll be post game tonight. There'll be a Manuk Moose Minute.
Moose did pick up a big victory yesterday, Drew.
But
I'll save it for the post game.
There you go. Hartsey, you'll have to listen to it at the post game. The post game, speaking of which, that's the Illegal Curve post game after tonight's Jets Maple Leafs game. It's going to be right around 9 o'clock, 9:15, somewhere in that time frame. So upon the final whistle, you head back to our YouTube channel, the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, our Facebook page. Either way, you're going to be able to catch the Illegal Curve post-game show. We do that after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And of course, we do it also on Saturday mornings with the Illegal Curve hockey show. Big thanks to all of you for joining us, whether you are live here at City Place in the food court. We appreciate you making time for us on this on this Monday afternoon, taking your lunch hour and joining us for this comprehensive Jets Leafs preview. Also, all of you watching us at home on our social media platforms, we appreciate that support. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're hearing my voice here at City Place and you're wondering, how do I subscribe to that YouTube channel? How do I find these guys on a regular basis? Well, you just search for Illegal Curve on YouTube, or you go to the QR code that's right behind me here on the big poster. Just scan that QR code, subscribe, and that way you won't miss a minute of the Illegal Curve pregame show, postgame show, or Saturday show.
One of only 2 places on the internet where you're going to find today's morning media availabilities with Dylan DeMello, Alex Iafallo, and head coach Scott Arneal.
There you go.
illegalcurve.com is your home, and of course our YouTube channel as well. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Big thanks to our friends at City Place for their support of the Illegal Curve hockey show, the Illegal Curve pregame show. Big thanks, of course, to Play Now for their support as well. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Holt Dental. Did I miss anybody? I think I covered them all right there, didn't I? Okay, Dave wasn't even listening. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you later tonight. Thanks for this has been a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, getting you set for the Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.